This presentation aims to show the understanding of human immunity by discussing the first and second lines of defense against disease, showing understanding of specific immunity by discussing the third line of defense, self-recognition, tolerance to its own tissue, and rejection of transplanted organs. Showing knowledge of autoimmune diseases, rheumatoid arthritis, and lupus. The presentation will discuss the biology of vaccinations and describe the herd immunity, categorize the acquired immunity, and the immune response. You are going to be describing the immune response to vaccinations before evaluating the benefits of vaccinations of MMR and measles infection rates for England and Wales, and lastly to evaluate the benefits of vaccinations. What is an infection? An infection occurs when a bacteria, virus, and other microbes invade tissues by pathogens. Their multiplication and their reaction to the host tissue infects the other organisms and starts to develop symptoms. The four main causes of infectious diseases are bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. The human body has three fundamental lines of defense that fight against disease. There are physical and chemical barriers, non-specific and specific responses. The first defense, our innate immune system, provides the first lines of defense, which is split into physical and chemical. These defenses combine to help prevent the entry of all pathogens, as they do not discriminate against the disease attempting to enter the body. Physical defense. Our skin is the biggest physical barrier that prevents pathogens from entering the body, as it is made up of three layers: epidermis, dermis, and subcutaneous layers, which is an intricate structure that can protect bacteria and germs from entering the body and bloodstream to prevent infection. The skin also protects against elements such as UV light. Epidermis is the first layer of the skin that we can see and touch. Keratinin is a protein that is inside the skin cells and can protect against bacteria, germs, and entering the body and producing new skin cells every 28 to 30 days. Dermis is the middle layer of the skin, which has collagen and elastin, making its skin resilient and strong, consisting of hair follicles, sweat glands, nerves, and blood vessels to allow healthy skin. Subcutaneous layers are the fatty layers that protect against muscles and bones, which are made up of lymph vessels and blood. The mucous membranes are another physical barrier that can prevent pathogens from entering the body via the nose, mouth, urinary, and digestive tract by trapping pathogens by producing mucosa. The hair inside the nasal cavity and throat is known as cilia. These can trap the pathogens from moving further, and to remove them, you need to cough, sneeze, or blow your nose. Chemical barriers eliminate pathogens by protecting the body from infection. Stomach acid contains hydrochloric acid and pepsins, which can kill pathogens that may have entered through the GI tract. Saliva, tear, and breast milk also contain antimicrobial substances known as lysol, which are an enzyme that can neutralize bacteria and act as an antibiotic. Second defense. When a pathogen enters the skin or body, the body activates an anti-inflammatory reaction as the damaged cells release chemical histamine, bradykinin, and prostaglandins. These chemicals cause the blood vessels to release fluid into the tissue, which develops swelling. The chain of events helps to isolate the substance from further contact with other body tissues. During this period, the inflammation of the white blood cells, called phanocins, fight against damaged or dead cells, and accompanied on this occasion by other proteins known as cytokines, which help process and remove foreign particles. Fever is brought on by an increase of our core body temperature and continues until the infection is healed. Dilation of blood cell forms a veil in the wall, which allows the largest blood vessels to enter and create inflammation. Third line of defense. Pathogens and organisms can help produce disease, also known as infectious agents or germs. There are four types of pathogens. Bacteria is a single-cell organism with no nucleus, which is a disease caused by pathogens of strep throat, TB, pneumonia, food poisoning, and UTIs. Viruses shaped like a thread, which can reproduce by invading other living cells, and diseases caused by pathogens are cold and flu, measles, cold sores, chickenpox, and HIV. Fungi is a single organism with a single cell disease caused by a pathogen or athlete's foot, thrush, and ringworm. Protozoans are a microscopic single cell organism that has a nucleus and can cause parasitic infectious diseases like malaria and traveller diarrhea. Pathogens can be transmitted via the skin, body fluids, direct or indirect with someone, and contaminated surfaces. Antigens are a type of molecule which can include proteins, carbohydrates, and nucleic acid and fat. They inform the human body when an infection is present and begin to take action to trigger the immune response, which is done by creating antibodies. Antigens are found in viruses, bacteria, and normal cells of the body. They can be detected when something foreign is present. This allows the immune cells to create antibodies to detect and fight against harmful antigens. Our immune system can change and know which is the correct process to fight against specific antigen presence. We need to be exposed to all natural environments to build our immune system. It is something we develop through time and environment. Artificial immunity is when an infection is administered through administered with something caused to have the amount of immune response. The white cells are a part of the immune system. They work alongside the body to help fight against disease and infection. White blood cells are not just one cell, they're 5 different types. So we're going to break this down. Lymphocytes are a large nucleus present with a small round shape located in the lymphatic system. They have the ability to become T or B cells which produce antibodies and memories, able to remember previous infections and specific pathogens. Neurophorus is a most frequent type of white blood cell. It has an irregular nucleus and is medium sized, with the first to respond to infection. Acts by the process known as phagocytosis, commonly known as cell eating. Eosinophils is known to be rare in the bloodstream. It has a large granule and helps cellular function. They play an important factor in relation to worm and algae infestation, releasing toxins to kill pathogens. Basophilus is the rare type of white blood cell with a large granule. Has the ability to create different antibodies, hemoglobin A, D, E, G, and M, and removes antigens in the mean of activation. Monocytes, they produce bone marrow and produce growth and train to protect the body. It's the largest cell in the blood and is shaped as an oval. The ability to load the blood cells to prevent infection. Monocytes count as between 2 and 8% of the white blood cells. Hemoglobin. The structure of hemoglobin is a chain of 4, with all or 2 of the chains having a slightly longer mass and shaped in a Y shape. Each hemoglobin has a varied polypeptide formation which allows the function to be able to respond when required. Hemoglobin G, IgG, is present and is the largest amount in the body and tissue fluid. It will attack anything which poses a risk to the body. IgG is the sole class of hemoglobin that can pass through the placenta, which therefore provides the amount of immunity protecting the developing fetus. Hemoglobin A, IgA, is a large class of antibodies that is located in the body secreting such as the tears, saliva, and respiratory and intestinal system. Hemoglobin M, IgM, is the first hemoglobin that the body produces after being exposed to germs and provides short-term protection. Hemoglobin E, IgE, responds and reacts to all allergies, reacting parasites infections by cell stimulating and releasing chemicals such as antihistamines. Hemoglobin D, IgD, these molecules are present on the surface but is not present in all. It acts as an antigen receptor for B cells. Self-recognition and tolerance. When the body has low immune response to the body tissues, this is known as tolerance. The immune system can achieve this via antigens. When the foreign body is present, the body can recognize this through cell surface proteins MCH1 and 2 and HLAS, human leukocyte antigen complex. MCH1 acts as the first defense warning system in the immune system, detects foreign proteins and present in all nucleated cells. MCH2 is a certain cell of the immune system. Mediates immune response against exogenous agents present on the surface of first defense. Depending on the level of response needed for the foreign antigens, the immune system response may vary, as the immune system does not have a constant level of response for foreign agents, therefore the response level can vary. The immune system has a mechanism in place to achieve soft tolerance, developing a T cell which has the ability to recognize self-antigens, and the process of energy which the T cells are able to suppress the immune response. For organ transplant, the immune system can attack and reject the organ as the body thinks the foreign body, as the transplanted organ contains foreign antigens that are not recognized to its own immune system. To attempt to prevent organ transplant rejection, the organ needs to be matched as close as possible to an individual. However, no two people are the same. An identical match is not viable, but antigens may have a close match and given autosuppressive drugs to suppress the immune response. Clinically, there are 3 organ transplant rejections: hyperactive immediate after the transplant, acute rejection within 3 months of the transplant, and chronic. This occurs when the immune system damages the transplant over a period of time. Today I'm going to be discussing autoimmune disease, rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. Rheumatoid arthritis RA is a chronic disease that attacks the tissues and joints surrounding tissues of both sides of the body, is known as synovium, which leads to inflammation, pain, fatigue, cartilage damage, eye conditions, dry mouth and heart disease. Symptoms can vary from person to person, but it will affect the individual's daily life. For example, stiffness in the morning after sleeping overnight and sitting for long periods. The cause of rheumatoid arthritis has not been discovered. However, from research, it is believed to be caused by a combination of genetics, hormones, and environmental. Also, to consider the risk factors is that the cause of the development of rheumatoid arthritis, such as smoking, obesity, family history, and gender. Females are typically more likely to develop rheumatoid arthritis than males. For rheumatoid arthritis to be diagnosed, the doctor needs to carry out blood tests and look for inflammation and blood proteins, ESR or SED rates, confirmation of the inflammation in the joints, and C-reactive protein, CRP. Radiographs are to be assigned to show deterioration of the joints. Treatment for a combination of medicines, physical therapy, and surgery is required. Lupus is a chronic autoimmune disease that causes inflammation throughout the body. Symptoms of lupus are joint pain, headaches, fever, hair loss, mouth ulceration, rash, fatigue, shortness of breath, swollen glands, confusion, and swelling in the arms and legs. As well as these symptoms can also affect your organs. There are different types of lupus. Cutaneous lupus, drug-induced lupus, and neonatal lupus, but the most common type of lupus is SLE. The cause of lupus has been researched, and factors such as genetics, hormones, and environment are to be believed the cause. However, lupus can develop in some ethnic groups of people with higher risk rates, such as Hispanic, Asian, Black, Native American, and people with biological parents with lupus. Once diagnosed with lupus, it is treated with a combination of medication, physical therapy, and preventative measures like being active, avoiding sun exposure, and improving sleep. The immune system recognizes and responds to anti-agents or pathogens that have been exposed previously. The body has different categories of immunity that the body accrues over time. Vaccination is treated often to produce immunity for certain infectious diseases or pathogens. To break it down further, a vaccine is introduced, which is a weaker pathogen, onto the body to stimulate an immune system response. This active process that activates the immune system is to produce its antibodies, which are known as active immunity. Passive immunity is when an individual is provided with antibodies to a disease not produced via their own immune system. Once administered, the immunity is immediate, but the side effects can also be known as serum sickness. Another form of passive immunity is when a mother passes antibodies via the placenta or breast milk. Passive immunity only lasts if the antibodies remain in the body. Natural immunity is developed when an individual has been exposed to a pathogen and develops its own immune response by a normal course of infection. Our B cells have an essential part to play as they remember the antibodies, which therefore provides a long-term resistance of immunity to the pathogens they were exposed to previously. Memory cells are also released when new pathogens are present to allow them to have the ability to remember the correct antibody on the second response. By the response, the immune system does not need much time to produce a higher volume of antibodies before the symptoms start to develop. Vaccines. This is an exposure to a harmless version of a pathogen to stimulate white blood cells to produce antibodies. There are different types of vaccines which are live and inactive. Live vaccines are created for a lessened virus or bacteria that has been weakened by a harmless version. Once the body has been introduced to a small calculated dose of the virus, it allows the body to create several bacteria to stimulate an immune response to create antibodies to fight against an active live case of the disease. Inactive vaccines are a vaccine that require more than one dose of vaccine because the first dose of the vaccine acts as a primer for the second. Once the immunity is present, it will be stored in the immunoglobulin memory for it to be used again. Vaccinations are to prevent and to protect against serious disease, and an individual will receive many vaccinations in their lifetime from birth to adulthood, such as the MMR vaccine, MNEB, children's flu vaccine, polio, COVID-19, and many more. Before these vaccinations were introduced, death in children was very common, as if they contracted diseases such as measles or polio. These diseases are still present, but the 6-in-1 vaccine program provides protection which prevents the spread of contagious disease. Between 2016 and 2018, measles cases had nearly doubled and mumps cases had tripled between 2018 and 2022. Measles can lead to life-threatening conditions like meningitis, so children must receive their MMR vaccine to prevent the spread of measles. Looking at the data from 1940, there were a total amount of deaths from measles was 857, and looking at the figures for 2002, the death toll was 1. The vaccine program is proven to be effective. Vaccines like MMR can benefit the community and prevent mass outbreaks. Vaccination programs develop, herd immunity. As if enough people are vaccinated, it can prevent the spread of the disease and help prevent the spread of disease to people with ill health or individuals with allergic to ingredients within the vaccine. Vaccinations have prevented the NHS from spending thousands of pounds on treating disease that a person could have been vaccinated against. A more recent herd mass in program was rolled out during COVID-19 pandemic. The spread of the disease was rapid and more people mixed and socialized with work, meaning one person needed to be infected with COVID-19 and they could pass it on to hundreds of other people. And it transferred very quickly and spread quickly. To this day, the government is still rolling out a vaccine program to offer booster vaccinations to prevent further spread and to extend life expectancy. There have been many debates over the years on vaccinations which can provide misinformation and uncertainty for the public. To gain the correct information about vaccines, the public need to discuss them with a healthcare professional such as a doctor, nurse, or pharmacist. With the internet accessibly easily and the use of social media, some individuals take advice from these sources and non-professionals rather than seeking professional advice. One of these topics is the MMR. It has been a topic of conversation for pros and cons and people receiving misinformation, concerns about the side effects, and the controversy about whether MMR vaccine might cause autism, which was published by Dr. Andrew Wakefield in 1998. However, this has now been completely discredited and Dr. Wakefield has been struck off as a doctor. Even though the information on the MMR and the links to autism is discredited, people are still hesitant. Unfortunately, childhood vaccines are being reduced, and due to this, it is possible for many childhood diseases could return. With all vaccinations, the benefits are greater than the side effects. Some common side effects are soreness to the injection site, headache, and with MMR vaccine, side effects are a mild form of measles or mumps, which can last between 2 to 3 days. For any questions on vaccination, seeking professional advice from a healthcare professional is advised, as the benefits of vaccines are protect you from serious disease, protect the community and those around you, and to reduce or even eradicate some diseases if the majority of the public have been vaccinated. Thank you.